Hello, my name is Jenny Staples. I work at Harvard Human Resources Analytics and Reporting, and this demo is about mobility as part of the HR Analytics QuickView application. Mobility is about the employees who move into an HR core workforce position. It tracks information about the person and the position that they move into. In addition, it tracks information about the type of mobility. So for instance, was it a hire or a reclassification? If it was a hire, was it an internal hire, etc. This dashboard for the first time includes information on secondary jobs. We've always tracked the mobility on the primary position, but this one allows you to also track the secondary jobs that an employee moves into. This overview page also gives you some information about where the data is sourced from. So we use PeopleSoft data, and on top of that, we have an HR Analytics Star schema, and this application sits on those two components. The data is refreshed every month as of the last day of the month, and it will always tell you what the last month loaded was. So this is test data that is available in this demonstration, and in this example, the data was last refreshed on April 30th, 2014. Finally, this overview page gives you the information about which actions were included to gather this information. So you can see here, this is the list of the actions. It's hires, rehires, demotions, promotions, transfers, return from leave, and DTA, temp to regular. And also reclassification actions of JRC are included in these as well. The next sheet is the trends page. So you can see that I present information both for the calendar year and the fiscal year. We can flip over to the fiscal year. Within the fiscal year, there are a variety of different types of mobility actions. So this first one that runs across the top here is mobility. And so mobility is inclusive of hires, promotions, and reclassifications. Hires is a count of just people who have moved into an open position that's part of the core workforce. Internal hires counts the number of people who have moved within the university into a core workforce position. The intra-internal hire counts the people who have moved within their same affiliation. So for instance, if I were to take another position within Harvard Human Resources, then I would count as an intra-internal hire. Promotions are defined as an increase in pay grade, whether through job reclassification, promotion within one's own unit, or promotion by transferring to another unit. The number of promotions counts the number of actions with an action reason code of PRO. Therefore, all promotions are included in either the hires counts or the reclassifications counts. And finally, the reclass counts checks everybody whose job has been reclassified. So it's not counted as a hire. The reclasses are any action code of a JRC. They could be downgrades, lateral moves, or promotions. They are not considered hire actions. Within each of these mobility types of actions, I present 9 different charts for you to drill into the data. So the first one is always just presenting the counts at a high level. The next 3 present the counts broken out by the 3 major categories with which we look at things, so by affiliation. There's cycle down functionality that lets you drill down from central to the schools, to the sub-affiliations, to the department levels. Same thing with jobs, so you can look at staff. So I've clicked on the staff, and then you can flip the cycle down to begin to look at what the story is with the breakdown of admin and professional and support staff and the service and trade groups. You can look at things by person. This last one lets you look at fiscal period. So this is the counts of reclassifications by month. So this is, since I don't have a particular year selected, then this is just going through all of the years if you want to, and I'm currently restricting to staff, so I can click on staff again and remove that selection. If you want to look at a particular year, then you can select 2013, and then you can see when we have peaks in hiring period. So this is July. This is a fiscal year period. If we look at the same thing in calendar year, then you can look at it by month. So you can see this is January, this is July and August and September. So these are our peak periods, and then we have low periods between those. I'm going back to the fiscal year period. Now if the bottom four charts look at rates. So the first one is just the rate. This is looking at reclassification. If we look at mobility as a whole, then you can see, oops, sorry, going back to rates. You can hover over any data point and see the mobility rate in fiscal year 2011 was 32.6. You can look at rates by, again, by affiliation, by job, and by person. This page presents the mobilities counts and rates. So you can see that for all of mobility actions, you can see the hires, the hire rate, the internal hires and rate, the intra-major affiliation hires and rate, promotions and rate, and reclassifications and rates. Lastly, I present the core workforce job count as of the fiscal year end in this chart, and the calendar year end in the burnt orange charts. You can see that rates are always presented for completed fiscal years. For instance, everything below 2013, but for this test data was snapshotted in April, and so the fiscal year is not completed yet, so all of the rates are empty, and the core workforce count is not yet present as of June 30th for 2014 in this test environment. You can see, however, that the internal hires does present a rate, because this rate and this rate are internally referenced. So the number of internal hires uses the denominator of the number of hires as its denominator. And likewise, the intra-major affill hires uses the internal hires as its denominator. So you can see that typically the intra-major affiliation hire rate is high. Again, these same counts can be looked at by going through and looking at affiliation. So if we look at a completed fiscal year, then you can see the higher rates by major affiliation. You can use the cycle down functionality, again by job information. So you can always expand these column widths by person information, and then combinations of the two things. So looking at affiliation and job, so where people work and what type of job they hold, by affiliation and person, by job and person characteristics. And this last one lets you look at the action and the action reason codes. So for 2013, you can see the number of hires by these various actions and action reasons codes. The next chart is the mobility rate report builder. This one lets you use a dimension selector to choose information. So if I was interested in job function and employee class, then I can select those two items and say this is getting the job function code, but say I want instead the job function, then I can select that one and deselect this one. And then you can see what the job functions is and what employee classifications are included in that, and the counts for all of these attributes within that. The next sheet is the mobility rate report builder with focusing in on actions. So you can see that on this page, I don't present the rates. This is just giving the hires counts, internal hires counts, major fill hire count, and promotion and reclassifications. The reason that I don't provide the rates is because if we include the actions, in order to present a denominator, you'd have to use an active population as of the end of the fiscal year in order to present rates. And there are no people who who are active as of the end of the year don't have these actions as part of their demographics record. And so therefore I can only present the counts. So you can look at, this is just looking at university affiliation and major affiliation as our dimensions, and then with the added action as an extra dimension. If you wanted to also look at action reason, then you can add further breakdown that so you can see of the job reclassifications you've had, how many are downgrades, laterals, and upgrades. The next sheet is the mobility action. And this page lets you look at the mobility actions by an individual. I have hidden two columns in this main table, and one of them is the name, and the other one is the employee identification number. But you can see here that it tracks the mobility from and to actions. So you can see that somebody moved from a staff 3 to a research analyst position. There's cycle down functionality here so that you can drill down and see what grade the person moved into. So this is a high jump from a grade 53 to a grade 56, for instance. Sometimes people have lateral moves, so you can see all of the information on an individual. There are also flags here, so if you want to focus in on the people who were just promoted, for instance, or who have had a reclassification or have had not been hired, for instance, all of those flags are available for your use. You can see that the promotion now has modified what's available in these two areas. This is the action list box, and this is the action reason. So you can see that promotions are affiliated with job reclassifications, promotions, and transfers, and they have two different types of action reasons, but both with the pro code. If I deselect that by clicking on it again, you can see that the actions are more than that, and you have a scroll down list to see all of the action reasons. Again, there are flags that you can track what's happened within the university, if the move has been within the major affiliation, if the move has been within the sub-affiliation, or if you've had a cross-hub move. The next sheet is the mobility details page, and this lets you look at all of the information in one sheet. Again, I've hidden the employee name and employee records that start this set. All of the other attributes are listed in alphabetical order across the top. As with all of the sections, if you click on the filters and bookmark page, then you can select things that you want. So if you want to focus in on admin professional or a particular grade set, say a high level grades from grades 59 to 64, you can see what type of mobility has happened with that and click on the return to sheet. And then you have that information for that subset. You can see that in the current selections, you've got what your new criteria is listed as. So the filters page is available if you want to go directly there. There's a current selections box that just expands this little box that you have down here if you have a lot of selections available. And finally, the definitions page. These are about the definitions that are active throughout the whole application. So employee grouping is relevant for demographics, for mobility, for costing, terminations, etc. Thank you very much for watching this demonstration on mobility.